In this video, I want to show you how to create distributions from the data. Distributions help us summarize the data by describing how often certain values for a variable appear in a data set. We're going to do this for both categorical data and the quantitative data. First, let's take a look at a categorical data. This is the soft drinks data from your textbook. We have here a sample of 50 soft drink purchases at a concession stand. There are 5 popular drinks represented here: Coke, Diet Coke, Dr. Pepper, Pepsi, and Sprite. In the book, the data appears in 2 columns, but that didn't really make sense to me. Usually you want each variable in 1 column for proper data analysis. We want to make a table that tells us how many times each soda was purchased. This table is called the frequency distribution. Formally, it is a summary of data that shows the number or frequency of observations in each of several non-overlapping classes, referred to as bins. Now in this case, the bins here are those 5 sodas. How do we know these 5 sodas were the ones represented in our data? Well, if you are running the concession stand, you would know which sodas you're selling, and those would be the ones appearing in the data. Now, suppose you don't know. Could we get Excel to give us these 5 sodas? Sure you can. You could do that by using advanced filter. What you do is select the entire column of data here. Okay, let's do that now. I'm going to start with the heading. And I just used the Control-Shift-Down arrow to select the entire data. Now I go to Data tab, then go here to Advanced Filter. Now you see here there's a checkbox for unique records only. So that's what I need to check. And then I want to copy to another location. Now where should I copy to? Let's try over here and hit OK. Here it is. The sodas here are ordered in the order in which they first appeared in the data. The original list we were given here was in alphabetical order. That's why the ordering of the 2 lists is different. But you could always sort the new list to make it alphabetical. Now we're just going to use the original list, so I'm just going to delete the new list I created here. So what we'll do is we'll use the function COUNTIF to count the number of times each soda was purchased. So I type here COUNTIF, and I could see that there are 2 arguments here: range of the data that I'm counting in, so that's going to be over here, and the criteria is, what am I looking for, what am I counting, and that would be the Coke. So range, I'm going to select from Coke to the bottom of the data. Then comma, and then the criteria would just be the Coke. So that's the value I'm looking for. Then close the parentheses and hit enter. Now I see Coke appeared 19 times on this data. Now if I want Diet Coke, then I would say COUNTIF, and what was it again? A2 through A51. Then I look for Diet Coke. But of course we don't want to keep typing the same function over and over, so we want to type it once and copy it down. So let's start over. Let's go here, COUNTIF. Now A2 through A51. Now what is it I need to do now? Now I'm going to copy this formula down, and I want to make sure as I copy it down, the row reference, like from row 2 through row 51, and that reference doesn't change. Usually if I copy down this function to the rest of the rows, the row reference will change relative to where it's copied to. So for instance, if I copy this down to next row, then the cell reference here will change to A3 through A52. So I want to keep that from happening, so I need to use the absolute reference. Now what is a shortcut key for the absolute reference? It is F4, function key F4. So I hit that. Now I get the dollar signs embedded in my cell reference. Now if you have the Mac, then you would want to use a shortcut key, Command T, Command T, T as in Tom. Now the criteria again was Coke. I copy this down to Sprite, and there is our frequency distribution. So, which was the most popular soda? Well, it's Coke by far. Now, many times we want to see not just the count, but the proportion or a percentage of items in each bin. The relative frequency distribution here gives a proportion of items belonging to each bin, and the percent frequency distribution gives the corresponding percentage. In order to get these two distributions, first we'll have to compute the total of the frequencies we have. So I'm going to put here total, and here, whoa, what was that? It automatically filled in the formula from above, but that's not what I want to do. I want to sum the above values. Let's put a boldface there. To get the relative frequencies, you just need to divide the count of each soda by the total count. And of course, I want the dollar signs. Then I'm going to copy it down. It's a good idea to verify that the relative frequencies add up to 1. So I'll just copy across this sum formula. Yes, they do add up to 1. Now to get the percent frequencies, I just need to choose a percent formatting for these values. Since I want the percent frequency in a new column, I just have to duplicate these here. So I'm going to just choose, put a cell reference there, then copy it down, and then just change the formatting. So right click, and there is a percent formatting. Now here I'm going to drag this across to get the percent. Well, I should change this to percent formatting as well. So we could see that out of all the sodas, Coke was purchased 38% of the times, and the second most popular was Pepsi, which was purchased 26% of the time. We can also graphically represent the frequency distribution by building a column chart. We just need to highlight the columns here, not including the total. Then go to Insert. Then go to this little picture that's supposed to be Insert Column Chart. Then click on the first one, which is Cluster Column. We should always label the axis in both of the axes. Well, first let's change the chart title to soft drinks. So I'm going to click on the chart title and then start typing equal to, oh there it is, the cell that has the soft drinks, and hit enter. Now here's my new chart title. To add the axis labels, here horizontal and vertical, we need to go to Add Chart Element menu. So Add Chart Element menu. If you have an Excel version that has this plus sign here, it's easier. So you click on that, and that's your Add Chart Element menu. So if I click on this, you could see, oh, there it is, and I would check off this axis titles. And you get the axis titles that you could modify. Now suppose I didn't have this plus sign, then I would have to go to the menu, under chart tools. So design, then go all the way to the left to find the add chart element. Click on that. Then I see here axis titles, and I want to label both the horizontal and vertical, but here I have to do it one at a time. So go to primary horizontal, and here now I could say equal to, I want to name this, say the bins, right? So click on the cell that has bins and enter. And again, for the vertical axis, go back to design menu or design ribbon, then add chart element, axis titles, primary vertical, and I want this to, the height of each column represents the frequency, so I'm going to here say equal to the column header frequency and enter.
In the soft drinks example we just did, we built a frequency distribution of a categorical variable. Now let's take a look at an example with a quantitative variable. In the example here, an accounting firm just finished year-end audits for a bunch of clients. They wanted to get an idea of the times it took for these auditing jobs. So they took a sample of 20 audits they did and recorded the number of days that were taken. So the resulting year-end audit times are shown here in days. To speak of frequencies with quantitative variable that could take on a bunch of different values like this, it doesn't make sense to get the frequency for each unique value. What we should do is group these values. We create bins that will represent intervals of values like 1 to 10, 11, 20, and so on. And then count how many values are in each bin. To give you an idea of what we're shooting for, take a look at the finished version here. The frequency distribution is shown here for the bins. And here's a histogram. This is a column chart of these frequency values, as you could see. We will recreate these now. Going back to our data, first we will sort the values. Now sorting the values is optional, but it just helps me show you more clearly what's going on. Now we could actually use a shortcut like this. Click anywhere here, then right click, then sort, and then sort smallest to largest. Now how do we determine the appropriate bins? Well, the general guideline is to use between 5 and 20 bins. The data we have has only 20 values, so let's go with 5 bins. If we had a large number of values, like maybe 10,000 values, we might use the maximum, the 20 bins. In general, somewhere between 5 and 20 bins is good. To see how wide each bin should be, we could use this formula for the approximate bin width. So it says largest data value minus smallest data value, and then divide the difference by the number of bins. So here the largest data value is 33, and smallest value is 12, and we want to use 5 bins. So it's 33 minus 12 divided by 5, and that's 4.2. Now you can't have 4.2 bins, but some value close to 4.2 will work. Now a bin width of 5 would be convenient, so we could say like 0 to 5, 5 to 10, and so forth. Now since the lowest value here is 12, the first bin might start with 10, and then since the highest value is 33, the last bin might end at 35. So the bins could be 10 to 15, 15 to 20, and so on. So we could set up the limits of these two columns this way. So you start at 10, and then go up to 15, 15 to 20. Now a kind of shortcut way of doing this is select these two rows and then drag it down to continue the trend. And we need up to 35, so right here. Let's try to count the frequencies manually to get a feel for it. The count of values between, let's say, 10 to 15, so that would be up to here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 over here. and then 15 to 20. So that's 15 to 20 over here, but wait a minute. We already counted 15 earlier here. So now the question is, should the 15s go to the first bin or the second bin? The answer is the first bin. Excel counts the values which are greater than the lower limit and then less than equal to the upper limit. So it's like this. We will use the analysis tool pack for this. It's an add-in that shows up as data analysis in the data ribbon here. You probably need to load this add-in the first time you use it. It comes with Excel. You just need to load it. Here are the separate instructions for Windows and Mac. Just a note, if you happen to have a really older Excel for Mac, older than 2016, then that one doesn't come with Analysis Tool Pack. So in this case, you should update your Excel. Go to adam.pace.edu and then update your Microsoft Office 365, which contains the latest Excel. That is free to Pace students. So for Windows, go to the File tab, click on Options, and then go to Add-ins on the left panel here. Go down to the bottom, not there, but down to the bottom. Make sure this part says Excel Add-ins, right? And then hit Go. Here, make sure the Analysis Tool Pack is checked off, then hit OK. Now it should appear in your data ribbon. So let's check. Go to Data, and oh, there it is, Data Analysis. Here you could see there's a whole list of the statistical tools. Here we're going to find the histogram over here and then say OK. Here I included a screenshot of what you should fill out. So follow this, and there's also instructions here. So the input range is over here. You want to include a column header. And then bin range, that's only the upper limits, and again include a column header. So notice no lower limits, just the upper limit column. As for the labels box, you should select it. That indicates to Excel that the first rows of these respective ranges contain the labels, that is the column headers. You should always include the labels when you select the data so that the labels will appear as a part of your output. So the output here will be the frequency distribution, and then to create the histogram, you need to make sure to select this box, Chart Output. Now, where will we see the output? So normally, by default, it will appear on a new worksheet, which is already selected here. If you don't want to do that, but you want to put your output in some location that you want, you should select this little button here, and then here click on the location you want. So here, what I'll do is I'll put the output right next to the bin limits here. So I'm going to click on the F1. Of course, I have some numbers here, but those will be overwritten by the output. Overwrite, yes. So there it is. We got ourselves a histogram here. This is a column chart of the frequencies. As you could see, the height of the bars correspond to the frequencies listed here. Now for a histogram, the columns here should be stuck together. So we're going to make that change. We right-click on one of the bars like this, and then choose Format Data Series. Now here we could see the gap width is 150%. That means the gap between the columns is 150% of the width of each column. So we're going to make this really small. So let's say like 2%. Now I have the columns that are stuck together with a little white space as a border between the columns. Now as for the legend here, we don't really need it because On the vertical axis, we are already given that information frequency. So I'm going to click on that and then. So what does this histogram tell us? We could see the shape of the data. This one is skewed, that is not symmetric. This one has a tall bar to the left and then tail to the right. With the tail to the right, we say the data is skewed to the right. So that would mean there are some larger numbers that are kind of a little far from the rest of the data. In real life, a lot of data we see are skewed to the right. If you look at the personal income of different people, that's skewed to the right, with ultra-rich people like Elon Musk way to the right of the data. On the other hand, in many courses, the exam grades tend to be skewed to the left, kind of like this. Most people tend to get decent grades, but there might be a few who really fell behind and bombed the exam. Now, I should point out that the axis labels here are not quite accurate. They are the upper limits, not the bin ranges. So we want to say 10 to 15 here, and then 15 to 20 here, and so on. What I could do is I could put the correct labels here. We could do that by going over to the output here, upper limit, and then type in the range, like 10 to 15 and 15 to 20, and oh, wait a minute, it says October 15th here. If we want to make sure that this kind of range is not changed to date, we could put a single quote and then type. And I could do the same for the rest of this column. And you could see that the category labels were changed appropriately. Oh, and another way to make those labels. Now what I'm going to do is optional, but it's nice to know. So what I could do is I could use concatenate to connect the values that are in these two cells. I could use formula for that and then copy it down. So here I could say equal to D2, and then ampersand is for concatenate, and then 15. So that's 10, 15. Now, well, that's not quite right. We want to have a dash between 10 and 15. Okay, let's do it again. 10, ampersand, and then let's put a dash there. Dash should be enclosed in double quotes. And then again, ampersand to get that 15 there. Okay, so then now I could just copy this down. So that's a nice way to do it.